The interior of the truck was warm and smelled faintly of leather and coffee. Lisa settled into the passenger seat, clutching her purse tightly in her lap. She felt a mix of relief and unease as Jack started the engine and pulled back onto the road. The rhythmic hum of the diesel engine filled the silence between them, and for a while neither of them spoke. Lisa stared out the window at the endless expanse of desert, her mind replaying the events of the evening over and over again. Finally, Jack broke the quiet. "So," he began, his voice gentle but firm, "care to tell me what happened back there?" Lisa hesitated, unsure how much she wanted to share with this stranger. But something about Jack's calm demeanor put her at ease. He didn't seem judgmental or nosy, just genuinely concerned. Taking a deep breath, she decided to open up. "My husband, he left me at that gas station, just dropped me off and drove away." Jack's jaw tightened slightly, though he kept his eyes on the road. "That doesn't sound right. A man shouldn't treat his wife like that, especially not when she's expecting." Lisa nodded, tears welling up in her eyes again. "I don't understand it either. We were supposed to go on a weekend trip together, to a resort. I thought everything was fine between us, but then out of nowhere he said he couldn't handle all of this anymore. He just left me there." Jack shook his head slowly, his expression grim. "Some people don't know how to step up when things get tough. Sounds like your husband was more worried about himself than you or your baby." Lisa wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater, trying to keep her emotions in check. "It's not just tonight, though. Looking back, I think he's been distant for a while now. Always working late, canceling plans last minute, acting like he didn't want to be around me. I guess I just didn't want to see it." Jack glanced at her briefly before returning his focus to the road. "Sometimes we ignore the signs because we hope things will change, but sometimes people show us who they really are, whether we're ready to see it or not." Lisa let those words sink in. She had spent so long making excuses for Ryan, convincing herself that his behavior wasn't as bad as it seemed. Now, sitting in this truck with a kind stranger who barely knew her, she realized how blind she'd been. "What am I going to do?" she whispered, more to herself than to Jack. "How am I supposed to raise a baby on my own?" "You're stronger than you think," Jack replied firmly. "And you won't be alone. You've got family, friends, people who care about you. Don't let one selfish person make you doubt yourself." His words gave Lisa a small spark of hope, but the weight of her situation still pressed down on her. "I just wish I knew why he did it. Why would someone promise to love you forever and then throw it all away like it meant nothing?" Jack sighed, gripping the steering wheel a little tighter. "People have their reasons, I suppose. Fear, pride, maybe even greed. Whatever it is, it's not your fault. Some folks aren't cut out for commitment no matter how hard you try." They drove in silence for a while after that, the conversation giving way to the steady rhythm of the tires against the asphalt. Lisa leaned her head against the window, watching the darkened landscape blur past. Despite everything, she felt a strange sense of comfort being in Jack's presence. He wasn't offering empty platitudes or false promises. He was simply there, listening and supporting her without asking for anything in return. After about an hour, the first signs of civilization appeared on the horizon. Faint lights twinkled in the distance, growing brighter as they approached. Jack slowed the truck as they entered a small town, its streets lined with modest homes and local businesses. A diner with a neon sign reading "Maggie's Place" caught Lisa's eye, its windows glowing warmly in the cool night air. "This is where I can drop you off," Jack said, pulling into the parking lot of the diner. "It's safe here, and they'll be able to help you figure out your next steps." Lisa unbuckled her seatbelt but hesitated before opening the door. "Thank you, Jack, for everything. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't stopped." Jack smiled, tipping his hat slightly. "Like I said, don't mention it. Just take care of yourself, and that little one." With a final nod, Lisa stepped out of the truck and watched as Jack drove away, the taillights disappearing into the darkness. She stood there for a moment, feeling both grateful and overwhelmed. Taking a deep breath, she turned toward the diner and pushed open the door. Inside, the air was warm and smelled of fried food and fresh coffee. A few patrons sat scattered around the room, chatting quietly or sipping drinks. Behind the counter, a middle-aged woman with curly red hair and a friendly smile greeted Lisa as she approached. "Evening, hun. What can I get for you?" "I'm not sure," Lisa admitted, sliding onto a stool at the counter. "I just need to use a phone. If that's okay," the woman nodded sympathetically. "Sure thing. There's a payphone in the corner. Help yourself." Lisa thanked her and made her way to the phone booth. Her hands trembled as she dialed her sister Megan's number, praying she would answer. After several rings, Megan's groggy voice came through the line. "Hello? Megan, it's me," Lisa said quickly, her voice breaking. "Something's happened. I need your help." Megan immediately perked up, concern evident in her tone. "Lisa, are you okay? What's wrong?" Lisa took a shaky breath, struggling to hold back tears. "Ryan, he left me. At a gas station. Hours away from home. I don't even know where I am right now." There was a pause on the other end of the line, followed by Megan's sharp intake of breath. "He did what? Oh my God, Lisa, are you safe?" "Yes, I'm fine for now. A truck driver named Jack brought me to a diner in some small town. But I don't know what to do next. I don't want to stay here. I need to come home." Megan's voice softened, though it remained firm. "Okay, listen to me. First, you need to stay calm. I'll call Mom and Dad and we'll figure out how to get you back. Do you have any money or ID with you?" Lisa rummaged through her purse, pulling out her wallet. "I've got my ID and Ryan gave me some cash before he left. Not much, but enough for a bus ticket, I think." "Good," Megan replied. "We'll sort out the rest later. For now, find somewhere safe to stay overnight if you need to. I'll call you back as soon as I have a plan." "Thank you, Meg," Lisa said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'll never have to find out," Megan assured her. "Just hang tight, we'll get through this together." After hanging up, Lisa returned to the counter where the red-haired waitress was refilling coffee cups. Sensing Lisa's distress, the woman offered her a comforting smile. "Everything all right, hun?" "Not really," Lisa admitted, forcing herself to return the smile. "But I'll manage. Is there a motel nearby, somewhere I could stay for the night?" The waitress nodded. "Just down the street, about 2 blocks over. It's nothing fancy, but it's clean and cheap. Want me to write down the address for you?" "That would be great, thank you." Lisa accepted the slip of paper the woman handed her, along with a steaming cup of tea. "You've been so kind. I really appreciate it." "No problem, sweetheart. Everyone needs a little help sometimes." With renewed determination, Lisa left the diner and walked to the motel. The building was unremarkable, a single-story structure, with peeling paint and flickering lights, but it felt like a sanctuary after the chaos of the day. She checked in at the front desk, paying for a room with the cash Ryan had given her, and collapsed onto the bed as soon as she entered. Exhaustion washed over her, but sleep didn't come easily. Her mind raced with questions about the future. How would she support herself and the baby without Ryan? Could she afford to live on her own? And most importantly, how could she ever trust anyone again after what had happened? Despite these fears, a small part of her felt a glimmer of resolve. Ryan might have abandoned her, but she wasn't truly alone. She had her family, her sister, and even strangers like Jack and the diner waitress who had shown her kindness when she needed it most. As she lay in the dimly lit room, cradling her belly protectively, Lisa made a silent promise to herself and to her unborn child that she would find a way to build a better life, no matter what it took. The night stretched on, quiet and still, as Lisa drifted in and out of restless sleep. Outside, the stars twinkled above the sleepy town, their light reaching far beyond the horizon. Though the road ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, Lisa clung to the hope that brighter days lay ahead, for her and for the new life growing inside her. The sun was setting over the endless stretch of highway, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Lisa Carter sat quietly in the passenger seat of the sleek black SUV, her hands resting on her swollen belly. 8 months pregnant, she felt, both excited and nervous about the new chapter of her life that was just around the corner. But today she was trying to focus on the present moment, a romantic weekend getaway her husband, Ryan Dawson, had planned for them. Ryan drove with one hand on the steering wheel, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. He hadn't said much since. They left their home earlier that afternoon. The silence between them wasn't unusual. Lately, it had become more common than conversation. Still, Lisa tried to keep things light, making small talk about the baby's nursery or asking if he was hungry. Ryan responded with short, clipped answers, his tone indifferent. As the miles rolled by, the landscape grew increasingly desolate. The bustling city behind them faded into nothingness, replaced by barren desert and sparse clusters of dry bushes. Occasionally, a weathered sign would appear along the side of the road, advertising gas stations or motels dozens of miles away. Lisa glanced at the dashboard clock. It was getting late and she couldn't help but feel uneasy. "Are we almost there?" she asked softly, breaking the silence once again. Ryan didn't answer right away. Instead, he tightened his grip on the steering wheel and exhaled sharply through his nose. Finally, he muttered something under his breath that Lisa couldn't quite catch. She frowned, leaning forward slightly. "What did you say?" "I said we need to stop," Ryan replied, his voice flat. Without waiting for a response, he signaled and turned off the highway onto a narrow dirt road leading to a remote gas station. The building looked like it belonged in another era, its paint peeling, its neon sign flickering weakly against the fading daylight. Lisa stared out the window as Ryan pulled up next to one of the old pumps. Her heart sank. This wasn't part of the plan. They were supposed to be heading to a luxurious resort nestled in the mountains, not stopping at some forgotten outpost in the middle of nowhere. Confusion clouded her mind. "Why are we stopping here?" she asked, turning to face him. Ryan killed the engine and sat still for a moment, staring straight ahead. When he finally spoke, his words sent a chill down Lisa's spine. "I'm leaving you here." For a second, Lisa thought she'd misheard him. She blinked rapidly, certain her ears were playing tricks on her. "What do you mean?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "I can't do this anymore," Ryan said, avoiding her gaze. His tone was cold, detached, as if he were discussing the weather instead of abandoning his pregnant wife in the middle of nowhere. It's too much. I'm not ready for all of this." Lisa's stomach churned. She placed a protective hand over her belly, instinctively shielding her unborn child from the harsh reality unfolding before her. "You're joking, right? Please tell me you're joking." But Ryan wasn't laughing. He reached into the center console and pulled out an envelope stuffed with cash. "Here," he said, shoving it toward her. "It's enough to get you back home or wherever you want to go." Lisa recoiled, refusing to take the money. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring her vision. "How could you do this to me? To our baby? We're supposed to be a family." Ryan sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. For a brief moment, guilt flickered across his face, but it vanished just as quickly. "Look, Lisa, I never asked for any of this. You know that. I've done everything I could to make this work, but it's not fair to either of us. You deserve better than someone who doesn't want this life." His words stung like a slap. Lisa shook her head, unable to believe what she was hearing. "If you didn't want this life, why did you marry me? Why did you let me think we were happy?" Ryan didn't answer. Instead, he opened the driver's door and stepped out of the car. The cool evening air rushed in, carrying with it the faint smell of gasoline and dust. Lisa scrambled to follow him, struggling to unbuckle her seatbelt with shaking hands. By the time she managed to climb out of the vehicle, Ryan was already walking away. "Wait!" she called after him, her voice cracking. "Where are you going?" "To the resort," he replied without looking back. "Alone." Lisa stood rooted to the spot, watching as Ryan climbed back into the SUV and slammed the door shut. The engine roared to life, and within seconds the taillights disappeared into the distance, leaving her stranded in the eerie glow of the gas station's flickering sign. For several minutes, Lisa simply stood there, frozen in disbelief. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of what had just happened. How could Ryan leave her like this? What was she supposed to do now? The only sounds were the hum of insects buzzing nearby and the occasional creak of the rusty pump. Fear began to creep in, wrapping itself around her chest like a vice. Taking a deep breath, Lisa forced herself to move. She couldn't stay here forever. She needed to figure out a way to get home, or at least somewhere safe. Pulling her phone from her purse, she checked for service. No bars. Of course. Sighing, she tucked the device back into her bag and approached the gas station's main building. Inside, the air smelled stale, a mix of oil and old coffee. A single fluorescent light buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glare over the cramped space. Behind the counter stood a wiry man in his 50s, his face lined with years of hard living. He glanced up from the newspaper he was reading and gave Lisa a curious look. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice gruff but not unkind. Lisa hesitated, unsure how to explain her situation. My husband dropped me off here," she began, her voice wavering. He left me." The man raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised. "Left you? Here?" She nodded, tears threatening to spill over again. "I don't have a car and my phone doesn't have service. Is there any way I can call someone? Or maybe catch a ride to the nearest town?" The man scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Nearest town's about 20 miles east. Not much around here besides desert." He paused, studying her for a moment. "You ain't got no family close by?" "No," Lisa admitted. "My sister lives a few hours away, but I don't know how to reach her from here." The man nodded, slowly. "Well, I reckon you'll be needing some help then. Lucky for you, Jack Monroe should be coming through here soon. He's a truck driver. Good guy. Always stops for folks in trouble. If anyone can give you a lift, it's him." Relief washed over Lisa, though it was tinged with uncertainty. She didn't know this Jack person, but at this point she didn't have many options. "Thank you," she said sincerely. "I really appreciate it." The man waved her gratitude away. "Don't mention it. Just wait outside, and he'll be along shortly." With nothing else to do, Lisa returned to the parking lot and perched awkwardly on the edge of a wooden bench near the entrance. The night grew darker, the stars emerging one by one in the vast expanse above. Despite the chill in the air, Lisa barely noticed. Her thoughts were consumed by Ryan, his betrayal, his cruelty, and the overwhelming sense of abandonment that weighed heavily on her heart. After what felt like an eternity, the distant rumble of a diesel engine broke the silence. A massive semi-truck rumbled into view, its headlights cutting through the darkness. It came to a stop beside Lisa's bench, and a tall, broad-shouldered man climbed down from the cab. His face was weathered but kind, framed by a scruffy beard and warm brown eyes. "You must be Lisa," he said, tipping his hat slightly. "Old Pete inside told me you might need a ride." Lisa nodded, standing cautiously. "Yes, that's me. Thank you so much for stopping." Jack smiled reassuringly. "Don't worry about it. Hop in, I'll get you to town." As Lisa climbed into the passenger seat of the truck, she allowed herself a small glimmer of hope. Maybe things weren't completely lost. Maybe, just maybe, she could find a way to rebuild her life even without Ryan. The next morning, Lisa woke up to the faint sound of birds chirping outside her motel room window. For a moment, she lay still, staring at the cracked ceiling above her bed. Her body felt heavy with fatigue, but her mind was already racing. Yesterday's events replayed in her head like a broken record. Ryan leaving her at the gas station, Jack's kindness, and the long drive to this small, unfamiliar town. She placed a hand on her belly, feeling the gentle flutter of movement beneath her skin. The baby was a constant reminder that she couldn't give up, no matter how overwhelming things seemed. After taking a few deep breaths, Lisa pushed herself out of bed and got ready for the day. She checked her phone, hoping for a message from Megan. Sure enough, there was a text waiting for her. "Mom and Dad are coming to pick you up. They'll be there by noon. Hang in there, sis." Relief washed over Lisa as she read the words. Knowing her family was on their way gave her a sense of security she desperately needed. With some time to kill before her parents arrived, Lisa decided to grab breakfast at the same diner she'd visited the night before. The walk helped clear her mind, even if only slightly. When she entered the diner, the red-haired waitress recognized her immediately and greeted her with a warm smile. "Back again, hun? How about some pancakes and coffee to start your day?" Lisa nodded gratefully and slid into a booth near the window. As she ate, she found herself thinking about Jack and wondering where he might be now. She hadn't had the chance to properly thank him for everything he'd done. Maybe someday, she thought, she'd find a way to repay his kindness. By the time Lisa finished her meal, her parents' car pulled into the parking lot. She spotted them right away, their familiar faces bringing tears to her eyes. Rushing outside, she hugged them tightly, letting the comfort of their presence wash over her. Her mother, Patricia, held her close, stroking her hair. "Oh, sweetheart, we're so sorry this happened to you. But don't worry, you're not alone. We're here for you." Her father, Richard, nodded solemnly. "Let's get you home, Lisa. We'll figure everything out together." The drive back to Lisa's hometown was quiet but comforting. Patricia sat in the back seat with Lisa, holding her hand and offering words of encouragement whenever Lisa's emotions threatened to overwhelm her. Richard kept his focus on the road, occasionally glancing in the rearview mirror to check on his daughter. No one mentioned Ryan's name. Not yet. There would be time for questions and anger later. For now, they simply wanted to bring Lisa home safely. When they finally arrived, Lisa felt a mix of relief and anxiety. Home was familiar, but it also reminded her of the life she'd shared with Ryan, a life that now felt like a distant memory. Still, being surrounded by her family made her feel stronger, more capable of facing whatever came next. That evening, Lisa sat down with Megan, Patricia, and Richard in the living room. They listened intently as she recounted every detail of what had happened, from Ryan's abrupt departure to her encounter with Jack and her overnight stay in the motel. By the time she finished speaking, Megan was fuming. "How could he do this to you, to his own child? It's beyond selfish." Patricia reached over and squeezed Lisa's hand. "You deserve so much better than someone who treats you this way. Don't ever forget that." Richard leaned forward, his expression serious. "We need to make sure you're protected, both legally and financially. Have you thought about filing for divorce?" Lisa hesitated. Divorce had been the furthest thing from her mind when she married Ryan. The idea of ending their marriage felt daunting, almost surreal. "I don't know where to start," she admitted quietly. "And I'm scared of what Ryan might do. He's always been so controlling." Megan cut in firmly. "That's why we're going to help you. You're not doing this alone. We'll find a lawyer who specializes in cases like yours, someone who can fight for you and the baby." Over the next few days, Lisa began the process of reclaiming her life. With Megan's help, she contacted a local attorney named Sarah Fields, who agreed to take on her case. During their first meeting, Sarah listened carefully as Lisa explained her situation. She asked thoughtful questions and assured Lisa that she had options. "Based on what you've told me, it sounds like your husband may have violated several legal agreements, especially regarding your finances," Sarah said. "We'll need access to your joint accounts and any documentation you have. If there's evidence of financial misconduct or infidelity, we can use that in court." Lisa left the meeting feeling cautiously optimistic. For the first time since Ryan abandoned her, she felt like she had a plan, a path forward. But finding the necessary documents wasn't easy. Ryan had always handled their finances, leaving Lisa largely in the dark. Determined to uncover the truth, she logged into their shared email account late one night while everyone else was asleep. At first, she didn't know what she was looking for. Scrolling through countless messages, she stumbled upon emails between Ryan and an unknown woman. Her stomach churned as she read exchanges filled with affectionate language and plans to meet secretly. It was clear Ryan had been unfaithful for months, possibly longer. Digging deeper, Lisa discovered spreadsheets detailing transfers of large sums of money from their joint accounts into offshore accounts under Ryan's name. Her hands trembled as she downloaded everything onto a USB drive. The next day, Lisa brought the evidence to Sarah, who reviewed it thoroughly. "This is exactly what we need," Sarah said, her eyes narrowing as she scrolled through the files. "Not only does this prove infidelity, but it also shows deliberate financial mismanagement. This will significantly strengthen your case." As the weeks passed, Lisa grew more confident in her decision to leave Ryan. With each piece of evidence uncovered, she realized just how toxic their relationship had been. Ryan's actions weren't just cruel, they were calculated. He had manipulated her emotionally and financially, using her trust against her. One afternoon, while sorting through old papers, Lisa found something unexpected: a handwritten letter tucked inside a forgotten notebook. It was addressed to her, written years ago during happier times in their relationship. In it, Ryan had poured out his love and dreams for their future together. Reading the words now felt surreal, almost painful. The man who had once promised to stand by her side forever was now someone she barely recognized. Despite the heartache, Lisa refused to let bitterness consume her. Instead, she channeled her energy into preparing for the baby's arrival. Megan accompanied her to doctor appointments, helping her choose nursery items and baby clothes. Slowly but surely, Lisa began envisioning a future without Ryan, a future where she could raise her child free from fear and uncertainty. Her newfound strength didn't go unnoticed. One evening, as they sat together folding tiny onesies, Megan looked at Lisa with pride. "You're amazing, you know that? Even after everything you've been through, you're still fighting for what matters most." Lisa smiled softly, running a finger over the soft fabric in her hands. "I have to be strong for me and for this little one. Ryan may have walked away, but I won't let him define us. We're going to be okay." And for the first time in a long time, Lisa truly believed it. Months had passed since the court hearing, and Lisa's life had transformed in ways she never imagined. The cozy apartment she shared with her newborn son, Noah, was filled with laughter, soft lullabies, and the occasional squeak of a baby toy. Every day brought new challenges, but also new joys. Lisa marveled at how quickly Noah grew, his tiny fingers reaching out to grab her hand or his wide eyes lighting up when he saw her face. Motherhood wasn't easy. There were sleepless nights and moments of exhaustion, but it was worth every second. Megan visited often, bringing groceries, fresh laundry, or just a listening ear. She loved playing with Noah, cooing over his giggles and snapping endless photos for her phone. "You're doing such an amazing job, Lisa," Megan said one afternoon as they sat together on the living room floor, watching Noah kick his legs, happily. "I know it hasn't been easy, but look at him. He's perfect." Lisa smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "Thanks, Meg. I couldn't have done any of this without you, and Mom and Dad, too. You've all been my rock." "It's what family does," Megan replied simply, handing Noah a colorful rattle. "Besides, you're stronger than you think. Look how far you've come since that night at the gas station." Lisa nodded thoughtfully. Thinking back to that moment still sent a shiver down her spine, but it no longer felt like a weight pressing down on her chest. Instead, it reminded her of how resilient she could be. Ryan's betrayal had hurt deeply, but it had also pushed her to take control of her life in ways she hadn't before. For the first time, she felt truly independent, not just financially, but emotionally. Jack stayed in touch too. After their unexpected visit months earlier, he'd made it a point to check in regularly. Sometimes it was a quick text asking how things were going. Other times he'd stop by during one of his trips through town. Lisa found herself looking forward to these visits more than she cared to admit. Jack had a way of making her laugh, even on tough days, and his calm presence was comforting. One crisp autumn morning, Lisa received a text from Jack saying he'd be passing through again and wanted to see her. By now, Noah was 6 months old, sitting up on his own and babbling enthusiastically. When Jack arrived, he brought a small stuffed bear with him, which Noah immediately grabbed and chewed on delightedly. "He seems to like it," Jack said with a chuckle, watching as Noah gummed the bear's ear. "He likes anything he can put in his mouth," Lisa replied, smiling. "Thank you. That was really thoughtful." They spent the afternoon talking, catching up on each other's lives. Jack told her about his latest hauls and the quirky characters he'd met along the road. Lisa shared stories about Noah's milestones, his first smile, his first attempt at crawling, the time he woke up with a diaper blowout that somehow ended up everywhere except the diaper itself. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the living room, Jack hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Listen, Lisa, I know things haven't been easy for you, but I want you to know that I admire how strong you've been through all of this. Not many people could handle everything you've gone through and still come out smiling." Lisa felt her cheeks flush slightly. "Thank you, Jack, that means a lot. You've been such a good friend to me even though we barely knew each other at first." "I guess some connections just happen," Jack said softly, his gaze meeting hers. "And I was thinking, maybe we could explore where this connection might lead if you're open to it." Lisa's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected this conversation, but deep down, she realized she'd been hoping for it. Since their reunion, Jack had become someone she trusted completely. He made her feel safe, valued, and seen in a way Ryan never had. Still, she needed to be sure. "What are you saying exactly?" she asked cautiously. "I'm saying I'd like to spend more time with you. Both of you," Jack clarified, glancing at Noah, who was now distractedly pulling at the bear's button nose. "Not because I feel sorry for you or anything like that, just because I care about you, about both of you." Lisa took a deep breath, letting the words sink in. For so long, she'd been afraid to trust anyone after Ryan's betrayal. But Jack wasn't Ryan. He had proven time and again that he was dependable, kind, and genuine. And most importantly, he respected her boundaries. "I'd like that," she said finally, her voice steady. "But let's take it slow, okay? For Noah's, Sok, and mine." "Of course," Jack agreed, smiling warmly. "Slow is good, we've got plenty of time." Meanwhile, Ryan's life spiraled further into chaos. The financial penalties imposed by the court left him struggling to make ends meet. He sold his luxury SUV and moved into a cramped studio apartment on the outskirts of the city. His once immaculate suits hung unworn in the closet, replaced by worn jeans and faded t-shirts. Friends stopped calling, unwilling to associate with someone whose selfish choices had cost him everything. Ryan tried to rationalize his actions, telling himself that leaving Lisa had been necessary, that he hadn't been ready for marriage or fatherhood. But late at night, as he lay awake staring at the ceiling, those excuses rang hollow. Images of Lisa's tear-streaked face haunted him, along with thoughts of the child he would never know. He scrolled through social media occasionally, searching for updates on Lisa's life. Photos of her with Noah filled him with a mix of envy and regret. They looked happy, something he hadn't experienced in years. Desperate to reclaim some semblance of his former life, Ryan reached out to Lisa one evening, hoping to negotiate reduced alimony payments. She responded curtly, directing him to contact her lawyer. "We have nothing to discuss," she wrote. "Leave us alone." Her words stung, but Ryan knew he deserved them. He poured himself a drink and sank onto the couch, wondering how he'd let things go so wrong. Pride and fear had driven him to abandon the people who mattered most, and now he was paying the price. As the alcohol dulled his thoughts, he drifted into an uneasy sleep, dreaming of roads not taken and chances lost forever. Back at Lisa's apartment, life continued to flourish. With Jack's support, she started exploring new opportunities for herself. She enrolled in an online course to refresh her skills in graphic design, a passion she'd set aside years ago. Balancing motherhood and studying wasn't always easy, but she found joy in creating something beautiful after so much hardship. Noah thrived under the love and attention of his mother and extended family. His laughter filled the apartment, brightening even the grayest of days. On weekends, Lisa and Jack would take him to the park where he delighted in watching ducks paddle across the pond or chasing leaves blown by the wind. Jack effortlessly slipped into the role of honorary uncle, teaching Noah how to clap his hands and cheering wildly whenever he managed to crawl a few inches. One sunny afternoon, as they sat together on a picnic blanket, Lisa watched Jack play peekaboo with Noah. Her heart swelled with gratitude. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful. "You know," she said suddenly, drawing Jack's attention, "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad Ryan left me at that gas station." Jack raised an eyebrow, surprised. "Really?" "Yeah," Lisa admitted, smiling. "If he hadn't, I wouldn't have met you, or realized how strong I am on my own, and I wouldn't have this little guy." She gestured to Noah, who was happily chewing on a leaf he'd picked up. Jack grinned, leaning over to kiss her forehead lightly. "Well, I'm glad he did too, because I can't imagine my life without you two in it." As the three of them laughed together, surrounded by the sounds of nature and the warmth of companionship, Lisa felt a profound sense of peace. Life hadn't turned out the way she'd planned, but sometimes the best journeys are the ones we don't see coming. And, for Lisa Carter, the road ahead looked brighter than ever. The weeks leading up to the court hearing were a whirlwind of activity for Lisa. With Sarah Fields guiding her every step of the way, she prepared herself mentally and emotionally for what was sure to be a difficult confrontation with Ryan. The evidence they had gathered painted a damning picture of his behavior: financial misconduct, infidelity, and emotional neglect. But Lisa knew that facing him in person would still be painful. She couldn't predict how he might react or what excuses he'd come up with to justify abandoning her and their unborn child. On the morning of the hearing, Lisa woke early, her stomach tied in knots. She dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that made her feel strong and composed, a navy blue dress paired with simple flats. Megan helped her style her hair into a neat bun and applied light makeup to soften the dark circles under her eyes. "You look amazing," Megan said, giving her sister a reassuring smile. "Remember, you've got this. You're not the same person who let Ryan walk all over you." Lisa nodded, though her hands trembled as she clasped them together. "I just hope I can stay calm when I see him." "You will," Megan replied firmly. "And if you need me, I'll be right there in the courtroom with you." When they arrived at the courthouse, Lisa took a deep breath before stepping inside. The building felt cold and sterile, its marble floors echoing with the sound of hurried footsteps. Sarah greeted them outside the courtroom, her expression calm but focused. "Are you ready?" she asked gently. "As ready as I'll ever be," Lisa admitted, forcing a small smile. Inside the courtroom, the air was tense. Rows of wooden benches lined the walls, and a raised platform held the judge's seat. Lisa spotted Ryan sitting on the other side of the room, flanked by his high-powered attorney, a sharp-dressed man named Victor Lang. Ryan looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with his tie and avoiding eye contact with anyone. When he finally glanced in Lisa's direction, his expression was unreadable, a mix of guilt, anger, and something else she couldn't quite place. The proceedings began shortly after. Everyone took their seats. The judge, an older woman with kind eyes but a no-nonsense demeanor, listened intently as both sides presented their cases. Sarah spoke first, laying out the evidence against Ryan in clear, concise terms. She highlighted the financial records, showing how Ryan had siphoned money from their joint accounts, and presented screenshots of his emails with the other woman. Each piece of evidence hit like a hammer, painting Ryan as someone who had prioritized his own desires over the well-being of his family. When it was Victor's turn to speak, he tried to downplay Ryan's actions, framing them as misunderstandings or mistakes. "My client regrets the choices he has made," Victor said smoothly. "But we must consider the stress and pressure he was under. Marriage is complicated, Your Honor, and people make poor decisions when they feel trapped." Lisa clenched her fist in her lap, fighting back tears. Trapped? Ryan had chosen to leave her stranded, pregnant, and alone. He hadn't been trapped. He had walked away without a second thought. Sarah countered Victor's arguments skillfully, pointing out that regret didn't erase responsibility. "Mr. Dawson abandoned his wife during one of the most vulnerable times in her life," Sarah emphasized. "His actions have caused significant harm, and it's only fair that justice reflects that." Finally, it was time for Lisa to take the stand. Her heart pounded as she stood and approached the witness box, her legs feeling shaky beneath her. Victor wasted no time trying to rattle her, peppering her with questions designed to cast doubt on her version of events. "Isn't it true that your marriage had its challenges long before this incident?" he asked pointedly. "Could it be possible that you exaggerated certain details to gain sympathy?" Lisa met his gaze steadily, refusing to let him intimidate her. "Our marriage did have its challenges, yes," she admitted. "But nothing excuses leaving your pregnant wife at a gas station and driving off to a resort. That wasn't a mistake. It was abandonment." Victor pressed further, attempting to portray Lisa as overly emotional and unreliable. But Lisa stayed composed, answering each question with clarity and honesty. By the time she stepped down from the stand, she felt a sense of accomplishment. She hadn't let him shake her confidence. Ryan eventually testified as well, though his performance was far less convincing. Under questioning from Sarah, he stumbled over his answers, contradicting himself multiple times. When asked why he left Lisa at the gas station, he mumbled something about needing space and being overwhelmed. His lack of remorse was glaringly obvious, and even the judge seemed unimpressed. As the day wore on, the courtroom grew quieter, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, the judge called for a recess to deliberate. Lisa sat anxiously with Megan and Sarah, replaying every moment of the hearing in her mind. Had she done enough? Would the judge rule in her favor? When the court reconvened, the judge delivered her decision. "After reviewing the evidence and hearing testimony from both parties, I find that Mr. Ryan Dawson acted negligently and irresponsibly toward his wife and unborn child," the judge declared. "In light of this, I grant full custody of the child to Mrs. Lisa Carter, along with alimony payments and restitution for financial damages incurred due to Mr. Dawson's misconduct." A wave of relief washed over Lisa as the words sank in. She had won, not just for herself, but for her baby. Tears streamed down her face as Megan hugged her tightly, whispering congratulations in her ear. Even Sarah looked pleased, offering Lisa a proud nod. Across the room, Ryan sat slumped in his chair, his face pale with shock. Victor leaned over to whisper something in his ear, but Ryan barely reacted. As the courtroom cleared, Lisa caught one last glimpse of him before turning away. For the first time, she felt free, not just legally but emotionally. She didn't owe him anything anymore. In the days following the hearing, Lisa focused on rebuilding her life. With the financial support awarded by the court, she rented a cozy 2-bedroom apartment near Megan's house. Together, they transformed the space into a warm and welcoming home, filling it with soft blankets, colorful decorations, and everything needed for the baby's arrival. Lisa threw herself into preparing for motherhood, attending parenting classes and learning as much as she could about caring for a newborn. One evening, as she sat folding tiny onesies in her living room, there was a knock at the door. Surprised, Lisa opened it to find Jack standing there holding a bouquet of wildflowers. "Hey," he said with a shy smile. "I heard about what happened. I wanted to check in and see how you're doing." Lisa blinked in astonishment, then smiled warmly. "Jack, I can't believe you're here. Come in." They spent the next hour talking, catching up on everything that had happened since their brief meeting at the gas station. Jack listened attentively, as Lisa shared details of the court case and her plans for the future. In return, he told her about his travels and the kindness he'd encountered along the way. By the end of the visit, Lisa realized how much she appreciated having someone like Jack in her corner, someone who genuinely cared about her well-being without expecting anything in return. As the months passed, Lisa continued to grow stronger, both physically and emotionally. Her due date approached quickly, and soon she found herself in the hospital surrounded by loved ones as she brought her son into the world. Holding little Noah for the first time, Lisa felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Despite everything she had endured, she had created something beautiful, a new beginning filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. Meanwhile, Ryan retreated further into isolation. Stripped of his wealth and reputation, he struggled to rebuild his life. Friends and acquaintances distanced themselves, unwilling to associate with someone whose selfishness had cost him so dearly. Alone in a dingy apartment, Ryan spent countless nights staring at the ceiling, wondering how things had gone so wrong. But Lisa rarely thought about him anymore. Her focus was on raising Noah and creating a life full of joy and purpose. For the first time in years, Lisa felt truly happy. She had faced her fears, fought for her rights, and emerged victorious. And as she rocked Noah to sleep in the quiet hours of the night, she whispered softly, "We're going to be okay, my sweet boy. Just you and me."